Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello all of my friends. We are from third group. We consist of me, Aisyatur Rodhiyah, and my friend Fatma Kurniawati. Here we will explain about the probe use of bank conventional. So without any further ado, let's check it out. The existence of banks hadn't been found at the time of the Prophet Muhammad until Tabi'in and Tabi'ut era. So the law of the bank itself wasn't explained in the Quran nor Hadith. What is strictly forbidden is usury. According to the opinion of some scholars, it's considered to have the same characteristic or even the same as bank interest, which contained in the banking practice of bank conventional. But apart from that, there are some scholars who hold the view that the bank interest is different with usury, thus allowing the use of conventional banks for a reason based on certain rules and foundations. There are several reasons that encourage the emergence of the opinion that it's permissible to use conventional banks. First is the use of conventional bank is unavoidable. Although there are already Muslim banks such as Syariah banks in Indonesia, many Muslim communities are still forced and cannot escape from using conventional bank for various reasons, such as conventional bank which is easier to find, more users, so it's easier to transfer money. The second reason is forced to use conventional banks because electronic payments are easier and more widely used today, as in the receipt of transfer salaries or payments or buying, selling, and paying bills. Many Muslim communities are more tempted by the promotions and prices offered by conventional banks. Conventional banks occupy a more attractive share market and operational management. And then the last is so the bank system is not controlled by non-Muslims. Okay guys, for the first part, we will talk about the opinions from scholars or fatwas that allow the use of conventional bank based on the Quranic foundation. First reason, conventional bank interest is different from the Jahiliyah interest that is multiplied. The basis of this opinion is Quran Surah Al-Imran verse 130. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu la ta'kulu riba ad'afan mudha'afah wattaqullaha la'allakum tuflihun. The meaning is, all you who believe, do not eat the amounts acquired through riba or interest double and multiplied. Fear Allah so that you may be successful. According to the scholars who use this reasoning, nominal bank interest is small and doesn't suffocate the borrower and can otherwise benefit the borrower. The second dalil, the termination of profits at the beginning of banking transaction is not related to halal and haram cases because it's based on the principle of willingness or maslahah mursalah. It was put forward by the ulama from Majma' al-Buhus al-Islamiyah in November 28 on 2002 and fatwas from Dar al-Ifta al-Misriyah in the 2003, and they used the basis of this opinion is An-Nisa verse 29. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu la ta'kulul amwalakum bainakum bil batili illa an takuna bijaratun antara minkum wala taqtulu anfusakum innallaha kana bikum rahima. The meaning is, all you who believe, don't eat up your property among yourself falsely, except that is be trading by your mutual consent, and do not kill yourself. Surely Allah is the most merciful to you. And then third reason, the fuqaha allow working in conventional bank in condition when the necessities of life of someone have reached the emergency level, so they are allowed to accept the job as a means of livelihood and sustenance. The base on this opinion is Al-Baqarah verse 173. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innama harrama 'alaikumul maitata wad dama wa lahmal khinziri wa ma uhilla bihi li ghairillah. فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم. And the meaning is, He has only forbidden you what dies of itself, or carrion and blood, and the flesh of swine, and that which is slaughtered as a sacrifice for others than Allah. But if one is forced by necessity without willful disobedience nor transgressing due limits, then there is no sin on them. Truly, Allah is forgiving and most merciful. And then now the second part, we will talk about the hadith that the opinion used for the base of their reasons to allow the use of conventional bank. First is the second reason used by Dar al-Ifta al-Misriya in their fatwas that published in 2003. They say that the principle of human benefit within the limits of the rights and justice of each individual. For example, in the hadith regarding marketplace intervention narrated by Anas radhiyallahu anhu, Rasulullah refused to intervene in marketplace. Meanwhile, according to some scholars, it's permissible for the local government to intervene in marketplace when businessmen set high prices in the market and stockpile goods. So that is permissible and legal to determine profits at the beginning of the contract to protect the right of the customer. So as long as there is an element of benefit and doesn't violate the Sharia, it's allowed. Especially in this case, it contains benefits from both parties. And then the second, regarding the salary or income earned by workers from conventional bank, which is may contain usury, there is a hadith from Bukhari. It said, indeed, everyone gets what he intended. And then third, in addition, there are hadiths which, if indeed humans cannot escape from using conventional banks, can be carried out in stages to release them, and by believing in permissible opinion. There is a hadith narrated by Tirmidhi, leave those who doubt you and then take those who do not doubt you. And the last base that they use is from the legal basis of mu'amalah is permissible. As Ibn Taymiyyah said, the original law in mu'amalah is forgiveness. Nothing is forbidden except what Allah has forbidden. Banking is basically included in the practice of mu'amalah. If there is no evidence that agrees that the practice of mu'amalah is haram, then it must return to the permissibility. However, it must still be sorted if there is a banking contract that is clearly proven to be unlawful.
The next material is about ijma, which justifies the existence of conventional banks. So, the scholars who view the lawful existence of conventional banks produce an ijma or joint decision that it is legal to keep money or borrow money through conventional banks because neither the Quran nor the Sunnah have any evidence that prohibit a mutual agreement at the beginning regarding determination of profits. And between the two parties, both the bank and the customer have been mutually pleased without any element of coercion. In contrast to usury, there is an element of coercion regarding the interest, which is too burdensome and multiplied. Then, the next material is about Qiyas, which legalizes conventional banks. The halalness of conventional banks is explained by the scholars with a profit-sharing system for joint effort, which in Islam is legally allowed with the argument in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 2083, and also the hadith of the Prophet, which means that there are three things that contain blessings: buying and selling not in cash, muharada or mudorobah, and mixing with barley for household use, not for sale. Hadith narrated by Ibnu Majah from Su'aib. In these conventional banks, there are two types of interest that can be considered mutually beneficial. That is the first, deposit interest, which is a remuneration from the bank to the customer for the customer service to save their money in the bank. The second is loan interest, which is the remuneration set by the bank to the borrower for the loan he gets. So, from the two types of interest, it can be seen if the existence of conventional banks is justified because there is no element of the illegal levies in the interest system, also because of the mutual willingness at the beginning of the contract between the two parties, namely the bank and the customer. Then the next thing about the opinion of scholars who justify conventional bank. The first is Sheikh Dr. Ali Jum'ah. He is of the opinion that the scholars have never come to an agreement about halal or haram. This means that there will always be opinion that forbid as well as justified. According to him, the determination of the profit that must be given by the borrower to the owner of the property is not usury, because it is a division of business result and profit that have been initiated by mutual pleasure. Then, Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Sayyid Tanatawi, who argues that interest from saving in a bank is not forbidden usury, but is profit sharing for joint effort. Although the distribution of the result itself has been determined at the beginning, according to him, it is legal because it has gone through a process of mutual pleasure between the two parties. Then, Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Abdu, who argues that the issue of bank interest is not usury because the money stored in the bank benefit both parties, namely those who have money or those who borrow. Then, Abdul Wahab Kala, who considers that bank interest is mudarabah or syariah, where the first party includes his asset while the second party includes his service. And then Sheikh Mahmud Saltut, who argues that giving interest from the bank to customer cannot be called usury, but is an appreciation and encouragement to be able to deposit money in the bank. Even in his view, when the money deposited in the bank is lent again to another party for business, then this is a good deed that gets a reward and no party is harmed in this case.
Alright, all of my friends, that's all we can explain to you. Hopefully you can understand it well, and if you have any question, you can drop it in the discussion box. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.